Hi and welcome to the Bookkeepers Podcast. I'm Zoe Whitman. I'm here with Jo Wood and we're joined by Sam Daniels from Xero. Hi Sam, how are you?
Very well, thanks. How are you doing?
Really good. We're good, aren't we, Jo?
Really good, thank you. Really good. It was nice to see a bit of summer this week. I mean, it's grey now, but it's all good. I think you've had a lot of sunshine recently, Sam, haven't you?
A little bit, but it was winter really where I was. I was over watching a few games of the Women's World Cup over in Sydney, but I quite liked their winter. It was about 23 degrees. So I was there for a short time, but it was rather good weather for winter.
Amazing. Oh, well, look, I'm really excited to dig into what you were doing in Australia and a little bit more about what happens at Xero and what, how you can support bookkeepers. Hi, everyone who's joining us live. Sam, do you want to start by telling us a little bit about your role at Xero and what you do, please?
Yeah, sure. Right. So my role is to manage our brand marketing in the UK. So it's quite a varied role. I split my time between planning and strategy. So working out where we're going as a business and how building a stronger brand for Xero can help us get there. I create brand campaigns, so working with our wonderful agencies and internal teams to create our advertising. So TV adverts, radio, outdoor adverts. And our sponsorship. So I help create our women's football campaigns and manage the amazing partnerships that we have with the FA and England Football and Lewis FC, and also some of the stuff we're doing with FIFA for the Women's World Cup. And also more recently, a little partnership with an organisation called Women in Football, which I can talk to you about a little bit later.
Wow. I mean, I'm part of XPAC, so Xero Partner Advisory Council, and I've heard so much before the World Cup and the Lionesses talking about Lewis Football Club. And that, I believe, is where it kind of started, and like the impact that Xero could have on like community and grassroots football. Do you want to talk us through like why you got started with Lewis Football Club and, what the deal is there and how you support them?
Yeah, sure. I guess it comes back to the purpose of Xero as a business, right? So we like to help small businesses and their advisors and the communities thrive. And so we've entered into partnerships that we think sort of have a genuine shared interest. So Lewis is a really interesting football club. So Lewis were one of the first, or were the first football club to split their revenue equally between the men's and the women's team. And they're also 100% fan owned. And they're really striving for financial sustainability at the same time. So there's a lot of shared values there, and they're just a really inspirational club trying to do the right thing. So when we first started thinking about how we grow our brand using sponsorship, we were introduced to the CEO, Maggie Murphy over at Lewis. And, from the first conversation, it was clear that the crossover and the values that we have as a business and they have as a football club were perfect for us. So, we do a number of things with them. We help them create a range of, or they help us rather, create a range of content to help other clubs learn from what Lewis are doing. So some of the most recent content and blog posts that we've created have been on the topics of fostering equality at every level of a club, or how clubs can engage with their local community to grow their club and give back to local businesses, or, getting down to basics, how just to build a budget for your club and how to collect money. So a really varied number of topics that we can co-create with using their experience as a football club and what it's successful for a football club, and our experience in all of the educational materials we create regularly for small businesses and their advisors.
It's really interesting. And why football? Like, why was the initial focus on football? I'm just curious about the connection with.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if you think about every town and every village in the UK, there's a football club. There always is, and it's often the backbone of a community. And every club in the UK is a small business. There's, over 30,000 amateur football clubs in the UK. And every club, therefore, has to be run like a small business. And to help more boys and more girls play football, they've got to be thriving. They've got to be a viable business. And so we hope that we can reduce the financial management burden and help them focus on what really matters. And that's, for us, our take on it is getting more women and girls onto the pitch. And local clubs are often run by dedicated parents or friends of the club with often limited experience of running a small business. And so any tools that we can provide to help them run a better business would have a knock-on effect in how much they can be providing back to the club. And we're doing that by helping create a range of educational materials and training programs and resources for clubs, but also through those partnerships. So our partnership with England Football means that we can help them reach the small businesses that are the clubs across the UK, and they can help us reach the clubs that they work with on a day-to-day basis. And we can be measuring that impact as well. And it's a really, really interesting space to be in, and it's always evolving. Women's football in the UK is constantly evolving, even before the Lionesses won the Euros last year. I think it's between 2021 and 2022, there was almost a 20% rise in female football players across the game, and a 30% increase in registered female football teams. So it's a really, really growing space. And for that growth to have, a really good foundation, it needs to be invested in. And hopefully the investment and the shared values and the shared purpose that we have as a business and the FA and England Football have in helping to grow the game are a really interesting and a really, really great place for us to make an impact.
Amazing. This is a subject close to my heart, Sam, because I remember being 9 years old, 1990, and I loved football and I wanted to play it. And I asked the teacher if I could join the football club, and I was told no, because you're a girl. And I think there'll be lots of women watching this now that have had maybe similar experiences. And then actually both my daughters have gone on to play football at young ages. They don't play it anymore, but they had the opportunity. And it was really important for me to make sure that they had that opportunity and that they played games and they experienced it, and then decided it wasn't for them, but it was a choice that they had. So I think this is amazing. So for our community's got a lot of Xero bookkeepers in it. How can us bookkeepers kind of get more involved and maybe think about this? Because when you do think about, the parents at the sideline and, a parent trying to take the subs in cash and, not really knowing who's paid and not really sure how to go about getting sponsorship themselves and all these things, there's lots of things that we can do to support because we understand small business. But also thinking about, those parents all standing at the sidelines, lots of them are small business owners as well. So I can see that there's a lot of opportunity there. So do you have anything that how you help bookkeepers get more involved with this initiative?
Yeah, I think it's really important. That network effect is one of the most important things that I think we can leverage across small businesses and advisors. So I guess why support your local club is really the answer. There's a bookkeeper in every town and city across the UK, and many local clubs, many amateur clubs, all operate at a loss, and it's not their intention to. And most support, as you said, is by volunteers, and it's supported by volunteers and run by volunteers who are short on time, and all of those financial admin can be really a pain. So what can bookkeepers do? Well, first of all, you have that expertise, you have that knowledge that you can share onwards. So first of all, it's reach out to your local club, find your local club, because even an hour of your time can really, really help. Encourage staff to volunteer. There's a lot of firms and a lot of businesses across the country want their staff to be volunteering for things in the local community. And what better way to come off the back of the Women's World Cup than donating your time to help women's football grow? Second of all, you can point them to the resources that we've created for grassroots clubs. If you search for Xero Better Numbers, you'll find our range of resources for football clubs, but also all of these points about how accountants and bookkeepers can get involved and help their local club. You can recommend the apps that might integrate into Xero that would help clubs run better subscription services. You can make an investment in your local club. Sometimes £50 goes a really long way to helping clubs just have the equipment that they need to get a few more people involved in football and put out a team. So it's a really, really small steps, but some of those tiny little things that you can do make a really, really big difference on a larger scale to the business of grassroots football clubs.
Yeah, there's lots we can do, and as I'm the sort of person who'll volunteer for anything. If school needs to do something, I've got to resist saying yes. But if there's something that you're really passionate about, and there's a way you can support, and you can't always support financially, but you can support with time, and you have the expertise people really need, that's so valuable.
And it might not be clear how you get in contact with your local club, right? But almost every single club will have social media presence, because they will be talking about the work that they're doing. They will be talking about getting a team. They'll be recruiting people to try and help volunteer with the club, or just get involved and play football. So I guess apart from getting in contact, you should have a clear idea of what you want to offer as well. How can you help? Have a think about what you're really good at and where your passions lie, and plan and prepare what you want to offer. And then talk to your team. You might find that some of your colleagues or some of your friends or anyone you know in the business is already involved with a local club. You probably are. You probably just don't know. So if you want to make an impact in your immediate or local area, you've probably already got the tools to do that. And then think about anything that you might like to have this sort of mutual relationship with your club. Perhaps it's your logo on their shirt, or perhaps it's your logo or signage on their clubhouse if they have one, or if they have a newsletter that they're sending out. And then use social media to make contact and to shout about what you're doing.
There's simple steps and things that you can do if this is something you want to help out and support. And it's a shoe into a bigger network. If me and Zoe always talk about thinking about the networks you're in, and if you haven't got a network, this is an opportunity to create one. Someone a community that really needs our support, and they will welcome it, I'm sure. And like you say, I like that, Sam, thinking about what do you want to do, and make those limits, because unlike like with Zoe, you end up saying yes to everything. So make sure this is what I'm willing to do, and this is what I'd like, and the newsletter and things like that. It is a key network and a backbone of your local community. And I think they might have an awards night, and you might be able to sponsor some trophies or something like that. There's so many opportunities, and we just need to think outside the box. And this is why it's so great to have people like you on to help us think about what access we can get to new prospects and leads without Facebook ads and things like that.
Exactly. And you'll quickly find that the network and the community of grassroots football is really open, and it's really welcoming. And that also extends to the business behind women's football. It's very, very welcoming. It's very open. And we've been working with a number of people in the business behind the game as well to try and talk about and understand and listen to what the problems are in developing the game to the next level. And part of the work that we've been doing around the Women's World Cup is showcasing those businesses and those women who are pushing the boundaries behind the scenes in order to grow the game. So our latest campaign that has launched around the Women's World Cup is all about the idea of dreaming bigger. And that's dreaming bigger for the women's game. That's dreaming bigger for small businesses, because there's a shared emotion that's between football and small businesses, and it's all around the dreams. Everybody's got a dream. They're all personal. They are always positive as well. You can't there's no such thing as a negative dream. That's a nightmare. And so we've been talking to a range of women in football who have sort of started on that journey and who've seized the opportunity in the growth of the game. And we started featuring their stories. And some of them are really inspirational. So we have Helen Hardy, who runs a company called Fowdies, and they're the world's first and only e-commerce space dedicated to women's football merchandise. And then we've got Laura Youngson, who runs a company called Ida Sports, and they made the first football boots specifically designed for women's feet. And then we've got Preeti Shetty, who leads Upshot, which is responsible for enhancing modern day grassroots sport through unlocking the insights behind the data. And then Fran Brown, who runs Goals for Girls. They're a social development program who help girls through football. And then finally, we've got Maggie Murphy at Lewis, who I've talked about. And all of those women run their businesses on Xero as well. And we didn't expect that, but it sort of talks to the network effect of all of these women have been speaking to each other and talking and learning from each other. And it was a really amazing way to get into the world of women's football by just recommendation after recommendation after recommendation. And listening to the stories of women in football can provide a real inspiration for how other businesses can get involved as well.
It's really interesting to think about how you've built this network. Like, who knew we'd be here talking to a software provider about women's football, and like we're going to find out about your trips around the world as well. I feel like we can learn a lot from you about partnerships and branding as bookkeepers as well. From what you do, the partnerships that you build, and I don't know that the complete intricacies of your role, but what are the lessons here that bookkeepers can take away in terms of, it seems like such a random connection, but that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, what can bookkeepers take away from this for themselves?
I think it's thinking about that shared purpose, right? So, our purpose as a business, as I mentioned, is helping small businesses and their advisors and the communities thrive. And, that's what we want to be good at. And the community of grassroots football is really strong as well and exists in every single town. And there's small businesses that are interconnected with each one of those football clubs. So when you break it down, it's a really sensible place for us to be present in. And so as a bookkeeper, think about, where does it make sense for you to be present beyond just servicing your existing clients? And you might find a network opens up of a lot of people that don't know they need help, or haven't thought about where they can get help. And if you can provide that little bit of help that helps one more girl get into football, 5 more girls get into football. And it doesn't have to be football. You might have another passion, but I'm going to say it's women's football because that's what we're talking about. But it's about aligning your interests, your expertise, and your passion for what you do and helping out. And it doesn't have to be a full-time job. As I said, an hour here and there can make a really, really big difference. And I think sport is a really interesting place to be doing it, because sport in general is more than just about winning and losing. It's about community. It's about purpose. It's about feeling like you're part of something. And sporting events inspire and unite people like some other things just don't. And for us, we were in a unique position to leverage, our brand and our technology and, all of the things that we want to be known for to lead to better outcomes for women in football. And if we can help, clubs improve their financial numbers, then they'll have more money for better kit, better tours, better facilities, more girls getting into football. And it starts with like that one little step. And, that little step might just be, helping out for an hour at your local football club or any other local community impact that you might have a passion for.
I really like this. I like the idea of, acting as, rather than going in there and saying, right, I'll take all the bookkeeping off of you and do this forevermore for free. No, that's not what you're saying. You're saying gift an hour and have a chat with the people, the stakeholders involved, whoever the people are that are doing that, and say, like, this is like, look at their current processes and look at what you can implement, and just like act like a consultant, a bit like a discovery call, but you're doing it for free and you're gifting that. And maybe you could have a Calendly link or something, and they can have like a special code to get it for free, like a Zoom call. So people turn up and have a chat, and I love the fact that it doesn't have to be just football. It could be whatever you're interested in, your passion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really, really great point. It doesn't have to be full time, but that one little step might help you figure out what your passion is. And you might have someone is looking for what you might be offering. And I think that's a really, really great place to start. So,
Sam, tell us all about what you've been up to with the Women's World Cup and your travels.
Yeah, sure. So, it's been a busy few months. We've been, as I said, creating that campaign to really highlight the women in football, and we've also featured a range of lionesses in our advertising. And I had the opportunity to go out and watch a few games in Australia, which was wonderful. And as we were saying, it might be raining outside now out my window, but winter in Sydney is a very different affair. But it was great to go and watch some of the Lionesses wins. The passion for football over that side of the world at the moment is really, really growing. You watch some of the videos of the fan areas. when the Matildas were playing on the weekend, and it's really amazing to see. They're even moving things like their 6 o'clock news in order to make sure that everybody's watching it. And it's a really rising tide and a real wave of passion that's ending up with, England in the semi-finals on Wednesday morning. And Spain are playing Sweden tomorrow morning. So the 2 semi-finals. And it's a really amazing time for women's football, and just to go out and experience the passion behind it was a really amazing thing to do. You really get a sense of firstly how large the scale of a tournament like that really is, but then the passion behind it, and the people that have traveled out there to watch it. Most of the women that I talked about that we're featuring in our campaign have, it's their passion. So they've made the decision to go out there and spend some time out there and network amongst the other people who are doing that from other sides of the world. And it's like a wonderful conversion of everybody who's working on women's football from all areas of the world coming into one place, and really being excited about the millions and millions of people who are watching women's football. And to me, it's not a surprise, but it's just amazing to see that so many more people are getting interested in it, because that will flow through, and that will have a really big impact on grassroots football. I think just over 7 million people watched the England game on Saturday morning, and that is the biggest. That's the only show. The only show on ITV that more people watched this year was the Grand National. Right. And I think that shows the scale of interest in women's football as we go through to the semi-final and to the final, hopefully beyond. But then after the final, grassroots football doesn't just disappear. It doesn't stop. That's where the impact of sponsors getting involved in the game, or volunteers helping out, or helping to improve the business behind football really, really makes a difference.
It's so true, and it's that impact afterwards. I remember watching, was it curling? I can't remember everyone wanted to go curling. Everyone wanted to get involved. I mean, we saw people through lockdown like pretending with their brooms to be curling. It was so funny. So and it's so good to see all of I saw an amazing advert, I think the French government, and they were showing these amazing shots, but they changed the women into men. And watching them with like a full pitch and a full crowd and everything. And then you watched it with the female, with hardly anyone watching but it was the same amazing, like, oh my goodness, the level and skill. It was really impactful. And I'm loving seeing all of this stuff going on, all of the advertisers. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's really important, the investment in the women's game, but also it's just an amazing sport as well. And, you can watch it because it's really excellent football, and watch it because you're interested in it as well, and because you want to get more passionate about supporting the women behind the game. But it's a really, really wonderful time for the sport, and it's really, really exciting. We've seen that from a number of the really close games in the Women's World Cup. It's making a really, really excellent time to watch it.
Yeah, Jo and I've both got daughters, and I think it's interesting to see this change. It's a real. I saw somebody posting on LinkedIn today about how it was about International Women's Day. I mean, it's not Women's Day till like March or something, and they were like, it was a guy posting, and he was like, should I be like annoyed, or how do you feel as a woman about International Women's Day? And it's really interesting, like. I can't really decide how I feel. It's brilliant. Like, women's football is brilliant, and I love that it's getting funding and recognised, and women are being paid properly. Like, why would they not be? And we are here in our pink with our community of mainly females who are building businesses, probably because work hasn't worked for them, and the normal workplace hasn't really allowed them to flourish in the way that they would have been able to if potentially they didn't want to have more flexibility, didn't have children. Hate to say it, but it's still a problem. And I think that's a lot of the reason why this community exists. And I think there's still a long way to go to have like equality or something. It's a really interesting one, and I don't know what my thoughts are, but it's getting.
The power of community in whatever industry or whatever sector you're talking about is a really, really huge part of what makes any industry or community successful. I'm sure there's a community of the community behind the bookkeeping industry in the UK is a really strong one, and I'm sure you can dip into any other industry in the UK and you'll find that it's driven by communities. It's driven by the network of people really passionate about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Xero as well. Xero has its own community, and that's what, this is why we have Xero as our sponsors, because there is that real community value. I know that as part of both the bookkeeping and part of Xero community, which is different, but it's still so important.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to be active, like visible champions of the women's game. And we want to be involved in the communities that are doing that. And, any way we can shout about that, the better. I think the word partnership is what we like to how we like to term our agreements with, like the FA and FIFA and Lewis, because we want to be working with them to achieve something rather than just sponsoring something. And hopefully we can show we're doing that. And they're long-term agreements, because that's how you create change. You don't just sort of dip in and dip out. And hopefully, as we look to create deeper connections with the women's game, and after the Women's World Cup, and through sort of the change that happens after the Women's World Cup, then we can really be sort of evolving how that partnership works, and also showing the impact of it.
Yeah. Oh, Sam, thank you ever so much for coming on and chatting to us about what's happening, like all the things we don't know that happen behind the scenes. It's really interesting, and that there's so much synergy between all of our values, and we're all about community.
Well, we're really excited about it. So, and it's great. It's great to be able to talk about it, and hopefully, if anybody's listening and feels like empowered and excited to get in touch with their local team, go and do so. You won't regret it.
Oh, amazing. Oh, well, thank you, Sam, for being here for the chat today. Thanks, everyone who's joined us live. We'll be back next week for another episode of the Bookkeepers Podcast. Take care. Bye.
Thanks for having me.